Ladies and gentlemen, it appears that Kuro Games and their CEO, Solon Lee, have been in another interview. And in this interview, they're covering some pretty crazy topics, and you can already see one on the screen over here, Project Nami. But unfortunately, there's a bit of a problem with us reading, reacting to, listening to this interview. I don't speak Chinese. So what we're going to go ahead and do is actually read a transcript about the entire interview that's been translated. And you can see over here from the topical areas, translation, routed over here by Narushio, we can see that it's focused on Wuthering Waves as well. So why don't we go ahead, start reading all of these questions, all of these answers, and see what kind of clues we can derive for the future of Wuthering Waves, Kuro Games, and all of its other projects in 2026. Looking back, what first motivated the team to take on such an ambitious project? I think they're talking about WuWa over here. From the very beginning, we realized something important. When a goal feels difficult, but the result is exciting, people's eyes light up. And what was the goal over at the Kuro office? I feel like they had a conversation along the lines of, Genshin was a good game, but it's like kind of shit nowadays. What if we just made one that was like way better? Maybe that's what it was. That's what got the eyes lighting up, and then they just went ahead and did it. That moment tells us the challenge is worth pursuing. We genuinely enjoy tackling hard problems, like dealing with Hoyoshills, because we believe meaningful achievements only come from doing things that are difficult but right. Honestly, this just to me like details why they decided to take on a company as large as Hoyoverse. Because that's essentially what they did. They decided, hey, Hoyo has these games, but they're really not meeting their full potential. But there's a massive, market environment and stuff like that. There's gonna be a shit ton of competition. But hey, let's go for it. I'm not gonna lie, that's kind of ballsy. That's kind of ballsy, especially when Kuro was I think Kuro was at one point somewhat close to bankruptcy when they were developing Punishing Gray Raven. So from near bankruptcy to challenging the biggest gacha company in the space. It's kind of a lot. Your early projects gained attention very quickly. How did that affect the team? When our first product launched, the response exceeded expectations. At the time, it almost made us believe we had everything figured out. But that confidence was quickly tested. I think they're talking about Twin Tail Battlegrounds or something like that. We lacked experience of long-term content planning, sustainable version updates, and large-scale operations. And this is what I meant by they almost went bankrupt. You remember what I said here about, yeah, that's what I meant, guys. How did those early lessons from Twin Tail Battlegrounds shape Punishing Gray Raven? In hindsight, Twin Tail Battlegrounds was the first game Kuro Games ever made. In hindsight, many early versions of our games didn't fully reach their potential. When developing PGR, we consciously avoided repeating those mistakes. They studied player ecosystems, observed how other successful titles operated, and anticipated feedback before it arrived. So I think it's pretty safe to say that in the gacha space, you've got to be a company that can work through failure. And I think one of the big reasons for why a lot of Wuthering Waves updates haven't necessarily felt like failures is they've already kind of gotten them out of the system. Yes, we've gotten some hiccups, right, in the past. We've gotten some hiccups, but the number of good versions for Wuthering Waves that stand out, that are basically ground shattering to the gacha space, those way exceed the number of versions that are mediocre or, in a sense, right, feel like they're not really improving that much on the game as a whole. I'm not going to go ahead and say that version 2.8 added a lot to WuWa. I'm not going to say it went in and changed everything. One of the most useless units we've ever had, a very not really that impactful story that just sets us up for 3.0. It's one of the most skippable patches in the game. But then you have an update 2.4. Then you have an update 2.0, an update 2.2, and of course, the actual story in 2.7, but forget the rest of that patch. It makes sense why there's not really a lot of massive fuck-ups. That's why you don't see stuff like the UGC or global passives, where it's just nobody asked for this, nobody wants this. People are asking, what the fuck is wrong with the developers for even deciding to add this into the game? You don't have those moments with Kuro. When did the concept for WuWa start to take place. With Wuthering Waves, our goal was very clear from the start: to create something players had never experienced before. They took inspiration from works like Death Stranding, Annihilation, and outstanding domestic animation. And you might as well say, after seeing 3.0 and doing all of that, you might as well just say, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, Horizon Zero Dawn as well. Themes such as resonance, abstract spaces, supernatural phenomenon, and strong audio-visual expression naturally pointed us toward an open-world action game. And I think one of the parts about WuWa that I feel like a lot of players kind of like passively take for granted, that they don't realize adds so much to the experience, is actually the sound design in this game. Do you want to know what one of my favorite noises to hear nowadays is? Let me just show you real fast. This is one of my favorite noises to hear. Ah, shit. Everyone's at low concerto. Whatever. It's not the actual combat. Right here. That concerto sound. That, to me, adds, like, so much to the game. Like, that part of, like, the sound design and stuff. And when I hear things like the whole, like, audio-visual representation, it just doesn't get, like, old, right? It's, like, so refined, and it's such a, like, it's such a packaged experience that feels so complete whenever you play. And I think that's part of the reason for why the combat in the game feels so good. It's because, like, the hit feedback, the sounds, the parry noises, combining a parry with, like, a vibration strength break. I forgot the vibration strength breaking. You parry at the same time. You ever had those moments where you, like, parry, break the vibration strength all off of one intro skill? You guys have done that before, right? Where you intro skill, you parry, and then you also break the enemy's vibration strength at the same time and stagger them. Yeah, that shit is cinema right there. That shit is cinema when it happens. All right, what else do we got going on over here? All right, yeah, strong audio-visual expression. They point us toward an open-world action game, and I think they did a great job. Sound and resonance play a major role in world building. Why was that important? And I feel like this is a question that a lot of players have, because WuWa is, like, built off of, like, audio, or, like volume waves and shit like that. You know, like these fucking tacit marks and shit, right? Where the fuck is hers? Is it, like, on her ass? Wait, I can't even see it. Where's hers? Wait, where's everybody's tacit mark? Oh, wait, hers is on her boobs. Wait, hers got... Oh, it's, like, right... So, as you can see, that one is, like... It's like the audio wave, right? It's like that. So, like, the source of power for pretty much every single character is, like, audio-visual waves. We wanted sound to be more than atmosphere. It needed to be a narrative force. The idea of world-altering resonance, a low-frequency lament capable of reshaping reality, became the foundation of the setting. So yeah, basically like a mini apocalypse that comes from, like, a sound that, like, that's so crazy that it's, like, rending the earth apart and, like, transforming it. Which, I mean, like, as a whole, it sounds kind of, like, nuts once you think about it. Like, I don't think a lot of us knew that laments were a sound. Did you know that? Apparently, Kuro aims to create concepts players have never experienced before. And I'm gonna be honest. I think they did. I think Wuthering Waves' premise probably has to be one of the most unique ones that we've had for, like, natural disasters. Like, there's, like, frequencies and sounds, and sometimes they get erratic and they cause the world to, like, blow up. Yeah? That seems... I don't know any... Do you guys know any media where that's the setting of how the disasters occur? I don't think so. How do you ensure cohesion between story, gameplay, and world design? And I think this is going to be a really important one for us to think about, especially heading into 3.0. Alignment is critical. Story, environment, and gameplay must reinforce each other. That requires long-term planning, especially when multiple versions are developed in parallel. Early coordination allows level design, systems, and IP development to inspire one another, which improves both efficiency and creative momentum. Okay, so this is going to be where I kind of ask Kuro to step on the brakes for a little bit and maybe think about at least a few of the past character releases that we've had in the game. I don't feel like that level of analysis was done for this unit. And maybe this one as well. And maybe this one too. from the perspective of this guy should be a DPS character. There's really no question about it. I think pretty much everybody can unilaterally agree. Everything about this unit is he should be dealing the most damage on the team. I don't think anyone can really disagree with that. He probably should be dealing the most damage on any team he's in. He doesn't. He's a sub DPS. He's a support character. The lone wandering swordsman, where his actual implementation in the story is him going to a bunch of different places by himself. That is his role in the story. Go by himself and complete his own quest. He buffs members of his team. He literally is intended to make other people stronger, which is like not really what he does in this, not really like what he does, right? So from that perspective, it really just gives like the whole, yeah, I can see how a lot of elements of the game, they seem to have this coordination and this vision, but it feels like for a character like Chu Yan, the animation team and the kit design team were on opposed ends. I think that's kind of just a fact. It feels like there was the team that made his visuals had a way different goal than the team that designed his kit. And that to me, he doesn't seem like early coordination. He seems like he was designed to be a DPS, but then the kit team changed his role to support Galbraina because you needed a Galbraina support. That's unfortunately what it feels like to me, was that he originally was a DPS, and then they realized, shit, Galbraina needs a support for echo skills. And they were like, okay, just turn his kit into it, because why does he do echo skill damage? Has anyone actually given an actual reason for why his attacks are considered echo skills? Is there anything that makes sense? Because for every other character that uses echo skills, they summon something, right? They summon or create something with the mechanics in their kit. Let me show you the 3 characters in the game, other than Chu Yan, who do echo skill damage. You have Cantarella, who summons jellyfish. You have Frolova, who summons Hecate in her animations. And Rosia, who literally summons Pero. Echo skill damage, echo skills built into kits are inherent to characters that actually summon things. Chu Yan, for some fucking reason, has more echo skills than these two, and he summons nothing. Unless you're gonna say, when everybody else is summoning like biological creatures, Chu Yan's echo skills make sense because he summons bamboo? He summons bamboo. That's like, I don't believe bamboo is an echo skill, but I don't believe bamboo is the same type of echo skill as the ones that these guys are using. Oh, sorry, I forgot. Galbraina has them too. And guess what fucking Galbraina does? Burn them all. Yeah, she literally has an echo talking to her in combat. They all summon something. He summons fucking bamboo. Why does he deal echo skill damage? To me, he's a character where his kit actually does not make sense. He goes against the fundamental rules that every other character seems to have. And I'm going to be honest, now that I've actually taken a look at the whole like echo skill mechanic thing, I do think this was not what his kit was supposed to be. Genuinely. I don't think this is what his kit was supposed to be, because I can't rationalize this whole echo skill focus that he has anymore. It makes no fucking sense, especially now that I've seen the other characters that use echo skills. So yeah, I think this checks out for a lot of stuff in the game. Genuinely, I think it does check out. But Chu Yan and a couple of other characters? Nah, brother, what are we doing here? And I do hope they don't end up with like this whole, he kind of breaks the lore of the game a little bit, in my opinion. Kind of feels like he kind of like stands out for those reasons alone. And as you can see, right, now based off the discussion that we just had about all the other characters, right, using echo skills while his is just bamboo, doesn't that kind of hurt the narrative and the gameplay cohesion? It does, right? Now let's move on. What does version 3.0 represent for Wuthering Waves? And I think this is going to be a cool one. Version 3.0 is a major milestone. It introduces an entirely new region, new characters, upgraded combat, and a significantly improved open world traversal. Every version aims to deliver the best experience possible. Hey, I'm going to be honest. Everything looks better in 3.0. Aside from one thing that I'll say is subjective, the setting. I'm still of the mindset that sci-fi is just not as popular as fantasy. And this is what I'll say. Wuthering Waves 3.0 is without a doubt not as popular as Wuthering Waves 2.0. The hype is not as high. And you don't have to just take my word for it. You can just look at, like, the views and stuff, specifically on things like, well, the live stream. Yeah, it didn't actually get that much at all, especially compared to some of the prior versions that we've had. And this is the thing, right? This is the thing. Fantasy, especially in global, is way more popular than sci-fi. I think that's pretty much, like, indisputable. Things like RuneScape, World of Warcraft, all of that, right? That's a gateway for a lot of people to, like, try out other franchises. And when people see, oh, this game, it kind of looks like an anime version of, like, WoW or whatever, right? Oh, like Lord of the Rings, ooh, Game of Thrones, right? If you're somebody that was, like, into, like, Game of Thrones or something, and then you saw, oh, Rinascita, you might be like, oh, shit, this might be, hey, this might be for me. But unfortunately, right, that's a way different setting. Now you got motorcycles, now you got, like, aliens and shit, now you got, like, that looks like you're on Mars. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not gonna go ahead and say that it's, like, dead. No, this is still great. This is still a massive amount of engagement. But I'm simply saying, right, based off of prior versions that we've seen, like, look at fucking 2.4s, bro. That's 525K. 525K on fucking 2.4. And then 2.5 got 423. That's kind of a bit more. So yeah, how does the team handle player feedback? Oh, this is gonna be a good one. We monitor feedback through community data, sentiment analysis, and post-version reviews. Both positive and negative responses are carefully analyzed and reflected in future updates, and continuous iteration is essential to long-term success. So, there's a theory that I've always had about why Wuthering Waves seem to have fallen off in 2.x. And let me just provide the reasoning. So, we all know that the Septimont update was one of the best updates we've had in the history of the game. And the Septimont update was one that added a lot of new players to the game. However, my theory is that those players didn't stay for very long, and they gave some dog shit fucking feedback, then quit the game. The devs then implemented changes for players that weren't here anymore. And the end result was that 2.5, 2.6, and 2.7 had, like, the worst events in the history of the game, where all of the stuff that we were getting before just disappeared, and all we got were goofy, casual mini games. It was like the Phantasma Dreamland in 2.5, then we had, like, Tower Defense in 2.6, and then, like, fucking goofy-ass Solaris Soldiers in 2.7. And this is my take. When it comes to those mini games, this is the worst stretch of Wuthering Waves history. When we had this into this, directly into Solaris Soldier, and no combat for 140 plus days after version 2.4. And my take was 2.4 brought in the giga casual Hoyoverse crowd that wanted to play the game just to collect the characters and not actually play it. Obviously, the novelty of it wore off, because if you're not playing a game, you're not gonna play it. Like, it was literally just like, oh, look at the character simulator and then log off. Yeah, they're gonna quit the game in a fucking month. They gave all this feedback about how they didn't want to play the game that much, and that they just wanted really easy, casual events. Then they quit because they weren't playing the fucking game anyways, and then all the actual players got left with their dog shit feedback. And the fact that we're now seeing in 3.0, the devs are releasing a whole fucking brand new endgame with an endless challenge mode that literally you will use every character on your account to fully complete it. This is the opposite of, like, casual. This requires you to have, like, a full account when there's no limit to the number of teams you can deploy. And that's a complete night and day opposite approach to 3 versions of the game. Honestly, 4 versions of the game. Because I think they got feedback across 2.6, 2.7, and 2.8. Hey, Kuro, the lack of actual meaningful content to use my characters in is killing the game. And then after that feedback, they proceed to release the most in-depth, longest, and most challenging endgame mode they've ever had. It seems to be checking out to me, at least. Seems to be checking out to me. I'm just hoping that Kuro has some sort of process in the future. Whenever they do get a massive influx of players like they did for 2.4, to filter the feedback to ensure that you're mainly listening to people that actually will keep playing the game. Like, weight feedback less if the person started the game in the version and then doesn't actually do the content in the version. Hopefully they're doing that if they haven't been already, because we don't want whatever happened in 2.4 and its feedback forms to ever happen again. All right, early story reception was mixed for 1.x. How did the story respond? We recognized that narrative presentation needed improvement. By optimizing production pipelines and increasing investment, later versions achieved much stronger storytelling clarity and delivery. I think everyone can agree with that. I think everyone in the gacha space pretty much agrees Wuthering Waves now has the best story out of all the big 4 gacha games. That's in hand due to the fact that Hoyo's made their stories literally worse. So Wuthering Waves didn't have to do that much to be considered the best. They kind of just had to, like, not really do anything. It would be the best, right? Because ZZZ got worse. 1,000,000%, right? ZZZ got worse. HSR also got worse. Genshin's also time gating their story because they can't have you playing it too fast either. So again, that's another way Hoyo made it worse. Oh, and Genshin also locked its story behind owning the characters too. Yeah, no, Wuthering Waves could have just not done story for all of 2.x and it would still be better than Hoyoverse. Yeah, Wuthering Waves could have had, they could have just across the entire 2.x art just not had story and it would have been better than Hoyoverse because they wouldn't have gotten worse then. Yeah, no, okay, no, that checks out to me. At least I'm glad that there's a company that's trying to make their stories better in the space where the biggest company is actively making all of them worse. So, yeah. It's just, this is clearly one of Kuro's strengths right now, and a big part of why this strength is being highlighted is because their main competition is completely dropping the ball. Next question. Kuro Games is known for polish. How central is that philosophy? We believe every visible part of the game must meet high internal standards like visual effects, skills, environmental details, and music and audio design or promotional content must meet a high standard. Yeah, I don't think we've had a lot of opportunities to, like, see massive fuck-ups on the production side. I think the only time we really see fuck-ups is on, like, the mechanical side. Like, with, like, Augusta's ult in, like, WuWa and, like, weird shit like that. And, like, Brant's intro skill sending you to fucking Africa. When you're still locked onto a target, you just start swinging in the other direction. Yeah, there's like stuff like that, like beta testing issues, Q&A, but it's like mechanical things, right? It's not like visual stuff, and it's only when you get into like the nitty gritty of some of the mechanics where you're like, okay, this shit is completely cooked. But visually, yeah, I can't say I've ever seen anything that significant. So yeah. We know that early receptions of the story was weaker, but there's some significant effort. More emotionally impactful performances and scenes, stronger presentation, clearer storytelling. Okay, so I think this basically what Kuro's saying is that, like, yeah, we make sure we hire really good VAs. And it checks out. The voice work for pretty much every single Wuthering Waves character, starting from 2.0, has been unbelievable. Like, it's been unbelievably good on the voice work side. Completely the best voices in gacha. The best voices in gacha. What, you guys think there are better ones? Like Yi Zhuan and Yi Shungite from ZZZ? Doesn't matter. How do community events factor into long-term development? Long-term IP growth depends on emotional connection. Community events, both online and offline, help us understand player expectations while strengthening that bond. Well, it just depends on whether or not the people invited to Kuro Fest are gonna tell players of Wuthering Waves to go re-roll IRL because they got called a clapped walnut. So, as long as situations like that are avoided, you know, for giving scores of like 7 out of 10 to like stories, then yeah, I think it'll work out pretty decently. But when we're inviting creators who have like essentially wished meaningful harm onto players of Wuthering Waves, I think that's a bit of a misplay. right? When somebody's on the record insulting the entire fan base of a game because their feelings got hurt and they have poor emotional control, reminiscent of a toddler, maybe don't invite them. Just a thought. Because when a creator does so much damage to their image in a community, where when they upload a video on Wuthering Waves, they get 1.5k views in 7 days, maybe they're not the best person to bring to the company event. Because, like, nobody likes him. Literally. I've never seen somebody this disliked before by a fan base. Stop trying to use this guy to promote WuWa. Why is this guy in Project Waves? All he does is go on stream and tell WuWa players to go reroll IRL, and he gets paid by Kuro to do that? I'm just gonna be honest, that's crazy. Imagine getting paid by Kuro Games to go tell WuWa players to reroll IRL. That's kind of rough. I'm just gonna be honest. Not the best look. Looking ahead, what is Kuro Games' long-term vision? Our goal is to become a globally influential action game developer, and upcoming projects, including Project Nami, are focused on delivering unique action combat experiences and creating something clearly distinct within the action game genre. So my point of view is that they're probably going to do something similar to what they did when it comes to like WuWa in like the 3D open world RPG space, and take like an existing system that could use some additional refinement, some additional features, and, you know, kind of like advance it up that way. I want to play something that feels like a little bit familiar, but then has like additional mechanics added on top that work out well. Because that's what WuWa is. It's essentially Genshin with way more in-depth mechanics to like activate things, extra abilities, and a way more like seamless combat system. That's basically what the combat is at a baseline. And there's so many additional things added that it feels like an entirely different game, even though every character has a skill, every character's got a basic, every character's got a heavy, every character's got an ultimate, right? A lot of those things are there. And I think we've gotten the news that Project Nami is supposed to be like one of those ARPG sort of games, like the Lost Arks, like the Diablos, like those. And I'm gonna be honest, those can be very, very, very fun. They're one of the most addictive franchises on the planet. That's why games like Path of Exile and shit like that get made. That's why ARPGs are still like, they're still a thing. They came out in like 2002. So yeah, overall, excited to see what the news is from there, but obviously it's not a huge focus of this interview. Now, the story of Wuthering Waves is planned years in advance with major narrative arcs already outlined. So yeah, that's just something to keep in mind, I guess, for the reassurance of the player base. Kuro knows what they're doing with WuWa for at least the next couple of years. And you're not going to end up in a Genshin situation or an HSR situation. HSR's writers are so incapable, they already have to retcon Penacony. Yeah, in HSR 3.8, they retconned all of HSR 2.0 to 2.3. So that's what happens when you can't plan out your story properly. You need to rewrite it, which is what HSR did. Genshin is basically rewriting and retconning the story with Nod Cry. Hopefully, Kuro doesn't follow in the footsteps of its retarded older brother and feel the need to retcon its story as well because the writers have no fucking clue what they're doing. But when everyone says Wuthering Waves has pretty much the best writing out of all the 4 gacha games, I think we're fine. So overall, I would just say, reading all of this, you should feel pretty confident. It's looking pretty good. It seems to be bolted on pretty well. And while there are a few hiccups that I can see with these statements, it looks solid to me. Finally, how would you describe Kuro Games' current phase? From the CEO himself, how does he feel about where the company currently is? Let's hear it. From Zhuhai to Guangzhou, we're in a strong upward phase. Our growth is driven by a commitment to meaningful, high-quality experiences, and staying true to that original intent is what will continue to guide us forward. This is my take. I had been feeling a lack of confidence in Kuro and the path that they were taking, especially following the droughts that I was talking about, right? That came from awful feedback in 2.4 that propagated, right, across the future versions of the game. But now that we've gotten news about 3.0, now that we've seen all the different things that are going to be added to the game, and now that I see the development of possibly the best endgame mode. It looks like it's going to be the best endgame mode a gacha has ever had. I'm going to be honest. It looks like they have actually been listening very closely the entire time. It was more so just the fact that, brother, it seemed like they weren't doing anything. It literally seemed like they weren't doing anything. And honestly, it could have been that they weren't doing anything for these first two versions. Then they got a shit ton of feedback. They need more endgame in 2.7, and this is the end result. We'll never know what internally the timeline looked like, right? But there's only so many conclusions that we can make when this didn't come out in 2.8, right? When this didn't come out in 2.7, when this wasn't here in 2.6 or 2.5. It's coming in 3.0. Who knows when the development on it actually got started. But the fact of the matter is, it's here, and it's been something that people have been asking for a very, very, very long time. And so, yeah, a lot of those worries are being, honestly, handled on my end. It seems like the game is on one of the best paths it's ever been, and I'm very excited to see what it's all looking like when 3.0 actually launches. And hopefully you guys will be as well. But yeah, that's gonna be the entire interview. And as you can see, apparently that shit took place in 2 minutes and 39 seconds. I find that almost unbelievable considering the fact that I've been talking about this for almost 40. But yeah, that'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you all thought about this Q&A, and peace out.